Journalism icon Sam Wilkinson was laid to rest last week. Here is Erskine King, a journalism icon himself and a former sports administrator, sharing his memories of Sam. Well, welcome to Anything Cricket Let's Talk. And of course, a very sad occasion, mourning the passing of our colleague Sam Wilkinson, who I know, Erskine, you've known for a very long time.
Yes, we go back a long way. Like I said, I knew Sam when I was still at school at Foundation, but he always referred to me as Kingdom Hall. And then, as a youngster getting into broadcasting, he was on what was then called Spotlight on Starcom with some of the stalwarts of the day, Don Norville. And then we had this close relationship. And as I said, we had the same birthday, the 1st of September. But before that, let me offer sincere condolences to Judy, his wife, and Barry and Samantha, of the passing of Sam, a dear friend. And like I said, we had many, many, many years together. We shared broadcast booth. We have shared discussions on sport, whether it be cricket, football, boxing, his love, table tennis. We had many, many years of discussion on sport, not only cricket, but in sport generally. So it's a long, long, long relationship.
What do you think of some of the things that made him stand out really as a sports journalist? Because there's no doubt that he had, tremendous support almost on a national basis, and he was an individual who many respected as a sports broadcaster. So, what do you think really stood out and made him so popular?
Well, Sam was a stickler for preparation, something that I would urge all young journalists to do. He prepared, whatever the sport was, whatever the discussion was going to be. Sam made sure that he was prepared, he researched, so that when he came before the microphone, he was speaking with authority on any discipline or any discussion which he brought to the fore. So that is something that stood out with me, that his preparation was always there and on point.
In table tennis, you mentioned table tennis is the sport he loved. And I know he played table tennis many years ago, and he was also a table tennis administrator for many, many years and covered table tennis as well. One of the things I remember, I don't know if you had the experience of hearing him do table tennis commentary, but table tennis commentary is probably among the more difficult types of commentary to present, play by play, if you will, because of the speed of the game. But amazingly, he was able to present it in a way that people enjoyed.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember when we had what it was, the World Championships here.
Yes, World Cup, yes. And I think that was
Yes,
1983, yes.
yes, and Sam, seeing Sam there at that event and doing commentary on it, it was marvelous to see and to see how he went about. But like I said, again, his preparation was there. He knew, have the background of the players, not only the local players, but those from far off lands. Some names were so difficult to call, but
Yes.
Sam got through them, you know, and brought that excitement to all the listeners and even those of us who were sitting in the audience. The preparation again.
And I suppose that preparation too featured in his own um, playing career, which in terms of cricket, you mentioned table tennis, but in terms of cricket, I thought he would never stop playing. I think he played up into to virtually almost 70 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm talking about playing hardball competitive cricket.
Yeah, well, he loved cricket and he loved to play. He was competitive. Despite being competitive, he would always have a reassuring voice to his opponents, even if he got somebody out or even if somebody struck him all over the place, he would still have something to say, whether it be humorous or otherwise. But he was there and never saw any rancor in discussion with cricket or at the cricket field, or in any sport. He loved that. And he got a great deal of satisfaction for whatever happened, whether he was on the winning side or the losing side. That was his nature as a person.
You're talking about his nature as a person, and it has caused me to reflect on something fairly recent where he has been in conference with the Table Tennis Association in terms of renaming the Table Tennis Center after the late Keith Morris. And I'm sure you know Keith Morris and all that he has contributed. And Keith certainly did a lot for table tennis. So too did Sam. But along with another former administrator that did, Darwin Goodrich, they were convinced that the center should be renamed. And he um, made every effort to bring that conversation to the Table Tennis Association. It hasn't borne fruit as yet. But again, to my mind, that shows the man in terms of his appreciation for the work of others, even when he himself has contributed so much.
Well, that is quite true. Keith was a household name in table tennis. He was Mr. Table Tennis. He was secretary for umpteen years. And when you talk table tennis, you talk about Keith Morris. And Sam was alongside there with him. And I remember even after when leaving Starcom and going to the Sports Council, that the name Keith Morris would always be there. Sam was always there and pushing and urging for further development of the table tennis. And I think it would be a fitting tribute to the contribution made by Keith Morris to have the center named after him.
As a journalist, and he was a bit of an all-rounder. I know he wrote the newspaper. He did commentary on a number of sports, and also worked on radio and television. What would you advise journalists in whichever format of media? What do you think they can best take from him? We talk about the preparation. Is there anything else you would like to maybe direct the modern day journalists to focus on that they could probably borrow from the life of Sam Wilkinson, the journalist?
The thing is having a knowledge of whatever sport you're going to cover, research it, have the institutional knowledge. And one must recognize that whatever sport it is, it didn't start last week. And listeners always like to have information relative to the past and bringing it to the future. I'm not saying that I would never get into this discussion of the past was better or the future is better. But the thing is, if you are hoping to be a serious journalist, that you had to do some research before you turn on that microphone so that you can be informing your listeners. And so often I hear listeners call and ask something, and there's nothing wrong in saying, I don't know, rather than guess and put out misinformation. And that is one of the challenges I have with, quote unquote, with some of the younger journalists, that they don't do the research. They have little knowledge of the history of the particular sport that they're going to cover or that they're covering. There's nothing, and like I said, no one person's the reservoir of all knowledge. So therefore, there are times when somebody would call or ask a question. And if you don't know, there's nothing wrong in saying, I don't know, but I will research it. But to guess and say, I think it's such a thing, because we must recognize that a lot of listeners will take what you say as the person behind the microphone as gospel.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, another thing is that if you put out that information and it is wrong, there's nothing wrong in coming back the next day or whenever and say, look, I gave you some information which was incorrect, and I would like to correct that. And I apologize for that. There's nothing wrong with that. Because like I said, no one person is the reservoir of all knowledge. And we can and we all do make mistakes from time to time.
Any closing thoughts that you want to share with us? Maybe one of your best memories of Sam, or something that you want to leave with us?
I remember, and this is going back many years as a youngster, again with this Spotlight program with the late Les Fitzroy Harris, Don Norville, Sam Wilkinson, and I was the little youngster in there. And I didn't see any scripts and so forth because you were talking. In fact, the only person who would have had a script really was Don, I guess, because of his involvement in the newspaper. But Les and Sam, the two of them in particular, they were spitting out these things and these, and I said, how these fellas? But after, they would have researched it. And they had it there so that they can talk with a certain freedom when they are discussing whatever the sport is, and they were able to do that. And I hope that a lot of our young journalists would be able to do that. They may not be as articulate or be able to put it out like that. But if you research and you're talking about a particular sport, then you become, quote unquote, the expert for that particular period because you have the knowledge, you have done the research, you have the information, whether it's in the form of a script, and there's nothing wrong in having the script, but it is embedded in your brain. As you get old, like me, you might forget some of them. So it's best to have the script. But there's nothing wrong in being able to do that. And I applaud some of the journalists who have been able to do research and things of that nature and be able to inform the public and inform the listeners and the readers of some of the things that have happened over the years. Because it is exciting to a listener when you listen and you hear things that you didn't know. I didn't know that, But you as the journalist and you as the presenter would be able to inform the people that are listening to you, reading you, and say, well, look, I have some time for this chap or that young lady because they have done their research. And let's not regurgitate something that is said at the street corner that may not necessarily be true. Some may be, but you check it yourself rather than putting it out there as being gospel, and then you realize it is not true and have egg all over your face.
Erskine King, thanks so much for sharing those memories of the man Sam Wilkinson. Of course, I know that you'll join us at Anything Cricket Let's Talk in offering condolences to his family and many close friends. Thanks again.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for inviting me to be part of this for Sam. Like I said, a dear friend. We shared many good times together. And like I said, least of all, or most of all, we had the same birthday, the 1st of September. And he would always remind people, he's a September man and the 1st. So therefore, you have to respect that. And with a smile, that was Sam Wilkinson.